How's it going, everyone? Sethphir here again, and today we are going to be taking a look at gear score, gear luck, and other mechanics, including like mining luck and things of that nature. So today I wanted to talk about gear score primarily and how it impacts the loot that you're finding in dungeons. So what we discovered in the beta was upon hitting level 60 and doing the highest level dungeon, Lazarus Instrumentality, the gear from the dungeon was scaling based off of our gear score. What does that mean? That means that this number in the bottom left here, as you can see on my character, 529, the gear will be around that level range. If I were to take a piece of gear, like this 570 gear on, or a lower piece of gear, let's say this 420 hat, and put it on my character, my gear score would be lowered. So this is a bit weird, and something I hope Amazon changes, but if it doesn't change, then the way it's going to work is you're going to put your highest level gear on, regardless of its stats, and do the dungeon with that gear on. And I've heard some rumors about you being able to put that gear on and then take that gear off and use your normal gear during the dungeon, as long as you have had the high level gear dungeon stuff equipped when you walked in or when you just had put it on at any point in the dungeon. So I think it's taking some sort of snapshot of your highest gear possible, and then it's spitting out items, as Amazon has stated in their, um, their posts, that the dungeon will give you a upgrade. Like it will attempt to give you one upgrade regardless. So if your gear score is 529, it's gonna spit out something that's higher than 529, right? It just has to do that. And so I think it's just picking off of that base average gear score. And so the interesting part about that, if you can see I have all purple armor here, this is the faction armor for the last rank adjudicator. And once you get this, you can get it at level 60, I believe, with the final faction mission quest. You can purchase it with faction tokens. So it gives you a very nice gear score boost. You can also purchase these weapons, which only come in at 525, so that will also boost you up. Your tools are irrelevant to your gear score, they do not matter. And your shield, if you're not using a sword, is also irrelevant to your gear score. I just put on a 570 shield, and since I don't have a sword and a shield, it does not count. However, your second weapon will count. If I take a weapon off and I only have one weapon, I will go down to 410. If I put it back on, back up to 529. So these two weapons slots will count. When you have a sword, it takes into account your shield and your sword. Now, the catch here, or the hardest part that I've seen so far in the game, is getting jewelry of a high level. And this may come into play more when crafters can craft higher level jewels and jewelry. But in our 2 weeks of testing the beta, we didn't see any prominent crafters that were able to hit that mark, as you do need, the starting base for jewelry is about 500 for crafting, and you need gear that increases the crafted level of your crafted item for the jewelers, as well as consumables, so that they can make a really high quality product. And no one was able to really reach that thing. So the best we got was quest rewards, and if you're lucky, some of my guild members got it, not me, you get high level dungeon drops while you're doing Garden of Genesis or Lazarus Instrumentality. So if you can get lucky and get the gear for your jewelry slots, that's going to bump up your gear score. So when you do this, you need to be on the lookout for high gear and keep it on you. Whatever your highest piece is, always keep that highest piece. There are some quests up in Shattered Mountain in the top part that will give 570 level gear. There's also a legendary quest line, which I'll talk about in another video, that gives a 580 level weapon and some other things. It's very extensive though, it's quite long. So these are just some general things to look out for as to how you could boost your gear score particularly. So this is something you need to do, cannot stress it enough. Keep the high gear score stuff. Keep the stuff that's relevant to your stat distribution, but also keep that high gear score items. The second thing in terms of loot that we're going to talk about is items with loot luck on them. As you can see, these pants here have 2.4% loot luck, and some of my jewelry also has this effect. So keeping a set that's full of loot luck is very good to do for a dungeon that you may have on farm if you're grinding, or if you have treasure chests in front of you, you could swap to this loot luck gear and then loot that treasure chest and it will be affected. So we've tested this. It does seem to determine the quality of the items. So that green can be transformed into a blue, that blue can be transformed into a purple, and so on and so forth. You will receive higher tier as well, so if it maybe could be a 4, it could get bumped up to a 5 if it's possible within that loot table. From what we've seen, no exact figures on that, maybe Amazon knows differently, but that's what we're working on right now. So having a luck set is also good. One last and final thing you need to keep an eye out for in regards to uh, items would be these giving mining luck. And so there is an ideal set. For example, this one's called a Skinner's Hat, and the Skinner's set seems to be thematic. So any item with that tag in it will give dexterity and then skinning bonus, right? So what does skinning luck even mean? When you skin a monster, you normally get hide. However, if you have skinning luck at a high level, and the higher level your skinning is, you have a chance to find uncommon and rare materials. And the uncommon and rare materials are used for the higher level crafting, so to say. So here in cooking, for example, I have rare prime red meat, which was from a monster. And if you have skinning luck, when you skin that monster, you will get access to those higher level materials. So it increases the odds of getting it. And from what I've seen, you can't actually get some of these materials without that luck on your piece, or without being so high above the skill level of what you're skinning that you get access to those things. So in my opinion, you would want a set for mining, a set for skinning, a set for harvesting, and a set for logging. So these are all the gathering professions. So I would be on the lookout to keep an eye out for these things. The final piece is going to be, and I don't know if I have one on me right now, but there are pieces of gear that give you, as mentioned before, bonus expertise in a crafting profession. So like armor smithing items will be 5 levels higher if you wear this piece of gear. I know that the armor smiths and weaponsmiths can also craft gear with that attribute on it, as well as you can find some charms. That's actually probably a good example. There are some charms that do this, and right here is an example of that. +5 to the minimum armor crafted item quality. And so what that's going to do is it's going to turn your 500 level crafted gear into 505. And if you keep stacking these effects, 535, 550, pushing up to 600. And if you can get all these bonuses together, you're going to be able to make high level gear that you can sell on the auction house for quite a good price, as the crafters can also kind of hand pick some of the stats that come on the gear pieces, whereas the gear from the dungeons are random drops, so you're kind of just, rolling the dice and leaving it up to fate there. So I hope everyone found this information helpful, and I will be releasing any updates I find to this type of information concerning loot and how that all works into the future. And other than that, make sure you check out the next video, and thanks for watching, everyone.